Welcome back. You're still watching our coverage of the U.S. election 2016. And in the studio here with me and Charles is Mr. Muyiwa Shoboy, former U.S.-based attorney. Now, a huge surprise in this election has been the emergence of Donald Trump as a Republican presidential candidate. When he started, so many people thought it was a joke and that along the line he was going to, probably drop out of the race. But look at how far he's gone. How was he able to do that? How was he able to defy the odds, beat all the other candidates and come this far?
I was not among those who thought it was a joke. And I'll tell you why. You remember where Donald Trump started with this thing about Obama questioning his birth, what they call the birther movement. I was watching very closely when that started, and he was tapping into certain segment of the society, a certain segment of the GOP, and I knew at that time that if he came out to run, he would likely win, because you have that segment, you have that ready-made constituents for him to tap into. Those that's been classified as being angry, or who felt left behind by the government, or who have other prurient interest, will normally just attach. And he saw that. He knew that. Remember, he was on TV. Remember, he is a star of his own show. So all those things about maybe he will likely not win in the GOP primaries and so on and so forth, I was not part of it, because I was looking at his potentials. And I think I was proven right. Further, he was running against others who don't have that natural constituents to tap into. Trump represents a lot of stuff that's disturbing. Issue of race, issue of religion, issue of misogyny, and so on and so forth. So you have that segment there ready-made for him, and you see that throughout the campaign, that was what he was doing. He was just, pushing that same segment of people, and so I was not really surprised that that he's gone this far.
But the question I would like to even put up, Mr. Shoboy, is that any other politician, or probably any other candidate in that election, in that race, among the aspirants, anyone who would have actually told Trump's line, that kind of ethnic rhetoric, misogyny, and even the scandals, particularly that recording that came out, any other politician would have been buried politically if any of those things associated with Trump had been associated with any of the others, whether it was Jeb Bush, whether it was Ben Carson. Probably any politician, whether Republican or Democrat, would have been buried if that sort of thing had been associated with any of them. So how come Trump was able to rise above all the controversy that will have buried any other politician?
That is the key word you put, politician. They have track records. You can look at them and say, oh, well, this is very unusual about this man. And, well, he doesn't have that, for one thing. So he comes in new, and he's talking about change. He's talking about, he was actually rallying people up with the sentiments, and then that's it. It's not that all those other politicians wouldn't have said those things that he said in the first place.
That is to say, he had no personal reputation to protect.
Nothing to protect. He was just a show person coming in. He has a lot of money, and because he was on TV, he has a name. I mean, it's just that way for him. So if you look at the other politicians, they have their reputations. They're politicians, except for one of them who was a surgeon. And even that one, you've been a top surgeon in the country. You have something to protect. I give it to him. He was very brave. He was very bold in coming up with this, because he was just throwing everything out. Who cares? If he loses, he's going to go back to his Trump Tower and spend the rest of his life enjoying his money. But the others are not going to do that. So they were not willing to take that risk. He was willing to take that risk.
Well, we've been talking about Mr. Trump now. Let's look at Mrs. Clinton, Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State. But her opponent actually did his utmost to bring out real or imagined skeletons in her cupboard. Of course, he played up the issue of the emails scandal. Well, let's say the FBI has given her a clean bill of health, and of course issues with the Clinton Foundation. But then it does raise suspicions in the minds of some Americans, I believe, that Mrs. Clinton does not necessarily have the squeaky clean image required of a presidential candidate.
Yes, if you look at her background, I mean, she's been in politics, she's been in public eye for 30 years. And she's been involved in certain controversial policies, such as the Child Care Act that during her husband's tenure. So you wouldn't expect somebody, she was the Secretary of State, Senator, you wouldn't expect something like that not to have certain things. I think the issue of the email was deliberately blown out of proportion by the GOP. You know, they had all these hearings. And each time you have a hearing, it's on TV. People are watching. And let me tell you something. All those people who were sitting down there asking those questions, most of them are, I'm telling you, lawyers. I mean, they've been prosecutors before. And so they knew what questions to ask, you know, to kind of bring out that sentiment among the public. The issue of trust, or we can trust her. What did she do? She had emails on private server. Goodness gracious, I mean, she didn't kill anybody, she didn't commit murder. I mean, but they can actually attach that to the issue of trust, just to bring out. And let me tell you something. Those GOP guys, they hate this woman from way back. And again, that goes into the type of society that America is and still remain. You see something unusual. It happened during Obama. A black person not coming to run for presidency. People are like, you know, wow. And then here comes a woman. You know, so you have to have it. You have this old boys network. They're not really happy about it. They're trying to push, and they throw everything at her. I mean, the fact that she is still there now, to me, actually should be commended. I mean, was she to be another person, I have quit and just say, this is it.
Well, Mr. Shobo, actually, don't you think the American public has been very unfair to Hillary Clinton? She has been referred to, she and Donald Trump, they've both been referred to as flawed candidates. You know, so it's just a matter of voting for the lesser of the two evils. But this is someone that has been in the public service for so many years. She's been First Lady, she's been a senator, she's been the U.S. Secretary of State. Why has she not been able to win the public's trust? Is it because she's a woman, or is there more to this?
I think part of it is because she's a woman. The other part is, if you've been in that public eye for so long, they always find something. I mean, her husband was president, and certain things happened during that presidency that actually showed, put her under certain scrutiny and light, you know, the Monica Lewinsky thing and so on and so forth. So she's always there. And every policy step she took, the GOP didn't like at any point in her career. So she's been their target. And you're correct. I think the American public is grossly unfair in looking at her as an issue of trust. Because even if you look at her history, what is it about trust? The only thing that they could find that their point is this issue of email. And they try that. I mean, if Colin Powell came up and said, well, as a Secretary of State, I have some private emails, and so on. So I think it's grossly unfair, but the campaign was very successful in that regard against her.
Well, we'll take a moment now, and when we return, it will be a continuation of the live coverage of the United States presidential election. Don't forget, we're still here in this studio with a former U.S.-based attorney at law, Mr. Muyiwa Shobo. For now, we'll take a moment, and we'll be right back.